Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the quantum analysis results scrolling across her holocrene, her hands trembling slightly as she double-checked the readings for the fifth time. The experimental data was clear. Her team's breakthrough in quantum manipulation wasn't just revolutionary, it was impossible. At least, according to everything the Galactic Confederation had taught humanity about physics. She glanced around her underground laboratory, buried deep beneath the Atacama Desert. The facility officially didn't exist, one of dozens of classified research stations Earth had maintained since first contact 60 years ago. The air felt heavy with the weight of her discovery. Computer, run comparison analysis against Confederation quantum mechanics framework, she ordered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The AI complied silently, overlaying her results against the established galactic models. The divergence was stunning. Her team's results demonstrated principles that the Confederation claimed were physically impossible. But they weren't impossible. They worked. The prototype humming quietly in the containment chamber was proof of that. Sarah opened a secure channel to Earth Defense Command. "This is Dr. Chen, authorization Sierra 9 Delta. I need to speak with Director Harrison immediately." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "It's about Project Oracle. We've confirmed the hypothesis." Within hours, Sarah found herself in a sealed conference room 2 kilometers underground, facing the 12 members of Earth's Security Council. The room was spartanly furnished, its white walls unmarked except for Earth's seal. Director Harrison, a tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing, stood at the head of the table. "Dr. Chen," Harrison said, "please explain what you found." Sarah activated her presentation, filling the air with holographic models. For the past 5 years, Project Oracle has been testing the fundamental assumptions given to us by the Confederation about quantum mechanics. We've discovered that their framework is deliberately incomplete. She highlighted specific sections of data. They've been feeding us scientific disinformation, carefully crafted to look complete, while hiding entire branches of physics. The room remained silent as she continued, showing how her team had discovered the gaps, tested them, and finally proven that humanity's understanding of physics had been artificially constrained. "The Confederation didn't just give us incorrect information," she concluded. "They created an elaborate scientific deception designed to prevent us from discovering these principles on our own." "How certain are you?" asked Counselor Zhang, leaning forward. "Absolutely certain," Sarah replied. "We've built working prototypes that violate their laws of physics. The quantum manipulation engine in my lab shouldn't be possible according to Confederation science. But it works." Director Harrison's expression hardened. "This confirms our suspicions. Dr. Chen's discovery isn't isolated. We've been gathering evidence of systematic deception across multiple fields: medicine, computing, materials science. The Confederation has been carefully managing our technological development since first contact." "Not just since first contact," came a new voice. All heads turned as a figure emerged from a hidden door: General Michael Santos, head of Earth's Intelligence Division. He looked exhausted, his dark uniform wrinkled as if he'd been wearing it for days. "We'd found something worse. Much worse." He threw a data crystal onto the table, and a new set of holograms appeared. These records were buried in ancient Confederation archives. Their observation of Earth didn't begin with first contact. They've been watching us for over 500 years, actively intervening to slow our development. The room erupted in shocked murmurs as Santos continued. "The Black Death, the Dark Ages, countless wars. They didn't directly cause these events, but they used their technology to subtly influence their severity and duration. They've been shaping human history to keep us dependent and controllable." Sarah felt sick as she processed the implications. Centuries of manipulation, millions of deaths, all to keep humanity from reaching its full potential. She thought of her own children, taught from birth to look up to the Confederation as humanity's benevolent guides to the stars. "We have options," Harrison said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Thanks to Dr. Chen and others like her, We've been secretly advancing beyond their constraints. The Sentinel program. Sentinel is ready, Santos interrupted. We can begin full deployment within 48 hours. Sarah looked between them, confused. Harrison met her gaze. Dr. Chen, your quantum breakthrough wasn't just a scientific victory. It was the final confirmation we needed. For 30 years, we've been preparing for the possibility that the Confederation wasn't what they claimed to be. Hidden shipyards, cloaked facilities throughout the solar system, technologies developed in absolute secrecy. The Confederation believes they've crafted the perfect cage, Santos added, but they don't realize they've actually created the perfect testing ground. Every restriction forced us to innovate in ways they never imagined. Every barrier made us more determined, more creative. Harrison turned to the Council. We need a decision. The Sentinel program is prepared. Dr. Chen's discovery proves we're ready. Do we proceed? The Council members exchanged glances. One by one, they nodded. Council President Chen, no relation to Sarah, stood. The deception ends now. Activate Sentinel. It's time to show the Confederation exactly what humanity is capable of. As alarms began to sound throughout the facility, Sarah watched the Council spring into action, issuing orders that would reshape the galaxy. She thought again of her children, and all the children of Earth who had grown up under the Confederation's lies. The cage was about to break, and its makers would learn that they hadn't trapped humanity. They had forced it to become something far more powerful than they could have imagined. Warning lights pulsed through the facility as humanity prepared to reveal its true face to the stars. Admiral Elena Torres stood in the command center of Olympus Station, watching as holographic displays showed the greatest military mobilization in human history, all of it invisible to the most sophisticated Confederation sensors. The station itself, buried deep within Mars' Valles Marineris, was a testament to humanity's capacity for deception. Status report, she commanded, her voice carrying across the bustling control room. Colonel Rivera stepped forward, his uniform bearing the subtle insignia of the Shadow Fleet, a force that officially didn't exist. Operation Darkstar is proceeding ahead of schedule. The Confederation's observers continue to see exactly what we want them to see. The main display showed a real-time overlay of what the Confederation could detect versus reality. Their sensors showed routine civilian traffic between Earth and its colonies, carefully maintained patterns that had been established over decades. The truth was far different. The quantum trode network is holding, Rivera continued. Dr. Chen's breakthroughs have been fully implemented. We're moving entire battle groups through the inner system, and their sensors register nothing but background radiation. Elena studied the tactical display. Hundreds of ships were moving into position, each one incorporating technologies the Confederation believed impossible. The Infinity-class carriers, nearly 3 kilometers long, had been assembled in secret shipyards throughout the asteroid belt. The Swift-class destroyers carried weapons that violated half a dozen fundamental laws of physics. Every vessel represented years of clandestine research and development. And the civilian evacuation? She asked. Proceeding as planned. The underground arcologies are at 60% capacity. The Confederation thinks we're conducting routine civil defense drills. Rivera smiled grimly. They believe we're practicing for natural disasters. In reality, we're preparing for the biggest revelation in galactic history, Elena finished. She turned as Dr. Chen entered the command center, looking somewhat out of place among the military personnel. Admiral, Sarah nodded. The quantum core upgrades are complete. Every ship in the fleet now has full-spectrum cloaking capabilities. The Confederation's own physics says it's impossible, which is exactly why it works. Elena gestured to a separate display, showing the Confederation's primary observation post orbiting Jupiter, and they suspect nothing. Nothing, Sarah confirmed. Their own arrogance blinds them. They're so convinced of their scientific superiority that they don't even look for the signatures of technologies they believe impossible. A junior officer rushed up with a datapad. Admiral, update from Project Phoenix. The solar-scale quantum array is online. We can now mask the energy signatures of our entire civilization if needed. Elena allowed herself a small smile. The Confederation had spent centuries ensuring humanity developed exactly as they wished. They had never considered that their restrictions would force humans to develop in ways they couldn't predict or detect. Message from Earth Defense Command, Rivera announced. The diplomatic corps is maintaining the facade. Ambassador Williams is currently giving a speech to the Confederation Council about humanity's struggles with basic fusion technology. The main screen showed the ambassador, looking appropriately humble as he addressed the gathered alien representatives. His apparent nervousness wasn't acting, but his anxiety came from maintaining the deception, not from any real sense of inferiority. How long can we maintain the masquerade? Sarah asked quietly. We don't need long, Elena replied. The final pieces are almost in place. The Confederation believes they're watching a primitive species struggling with basic technology. In reality, she gestured to another display showing the massive construction projects hidden throughout the solar system. They're about to learn that their perfect deception became our perfect testing ground. An alert chimed through the command center. Admiral, Rivera called out, we're detecting increased Confederation patrol activity near Saturn. They might have noticed something. Elena studied the tactical display. No, they're following their standard search patterns. They detect something's different, but they're looking in all the wrong places with all the wrong sensors. She turned to face the command staff. This is what we've prepared for. Every restriction they placed on us forced us to innovate in ways they never imagined. Every barrier they created taught us to think differently. She activated the fleet-wide communication system. All commands, continue deployment. Maintain emissions control. Remember your training. She paused, looking at the false sensor data they were feeding to Confederation observers. They think they're watching sheep. They don't realize they've been watching wolves in sheep's clothing. Sarah moved to stand beside her at the tactical display. The quantum cores are performing better than we hoped. We could probably move the entire fleet right past their main sensor arrays, and they wouldn't detect a thing. That's exactly what we're going to do, Elena replied. Position and timing are everything. When we finally reveal ourselves, she traced a finger along the planned deployment routes. The Confederation won't just learn that we've broken free of their constraints. They'll learn that we've surpassed them. The command center hummed with activity as humanity's true power continued to gather in the shadows. On screens throughout the facility, Confederation ships patrolled with supreme confidence, their sensors probing for threats they couldn't even imagine. Elena watched it all with the patience of a predator. The Confederation had spent centuries crafting what they thought was the perfect system of control. They were about to learn that they had instead created something far more dangerous, a humanity that had learned to hide its strength, bide its time, and prepare for the perfect moment to strike. Captain Maya Patel stood on the bridge of the ECS Prometheus, the largest warship humanity had ever built, watching as the massive vessel slipped silently through the rings of Saturn. The ship's quantum shroud made it completely invisible to Confederation sensors, but Maya still held her breath as a Confederation patrol cruiser passed less than 10,000 kilometers away. They're scanning the sector, reported Lieutenant Chan from the sensor station. Standard sweep pattern. They're not seeing anything unusual. Maya nodded, remembering the years of training that had led to this moment. The Prometheus wasn't just a warship. It was a testament to everything humanity had achieved in secret. 3 kilometers of advanced technology that, according to Confederation physics, couldn't possibly exist. Status of the fleet, she asked. Battle Group Titan is in position, Chan replied. All ships maintaining quantum silence. The Confederation's orbital platforms are continuing to broadcast their usual sensor ghosts. Through the bridge's panoramic viewport, Maya could see other shapes moving through Saturn's rings, the silhouettes of dozens of warships, each one representing a different breakthrough in human engineering. The Confederation had given humanity a carefully crafted cage of scientific limitations. Instead, they had created an incubator for innovation. Her neural link chimed with an incoming transmission from Olympus Station. Admiral Torres's hologram appeared on the bridge. Captain Patel, status report. Battle Group Prometheus is in position, Admiral. Maya responded. All ships showing green across the board. The quantum cores are performing exactly as Dr. Chen predicted. Excellent. Torres' expression was grim but satisfied. We've just received word from our observers in Confederation space. They're celebrating the anniversary of first contact. The Confederation Council is holding a grand ceremony, congratulating themselves on their successful guidance of primitive species like humanity. Maya's lip curled slightly. Perfect timing, indeed. Torres glanced at something off-screen. We've also confirmed that the Confederation has begun implementing the next phase of their development suppression program. They're planning to introduce subtle flaws into their next technology package, flaws that would have set our fusion research back by decades. If we were actually relying on their technology, Maya added. Precisely. Torres's hologram flickered as she pulled up additional data. The civilian evacuation is nearly complete. All major population centers have been relocated to the sheltered arcologies. As far as the Confederation knows, it's just another civil defense exercise. A new alert flashed across Maya's neural link. Admiral, we're detecting increased activity from the Confederation's Jupiter outpost. They're launching additional sensor probes. Right on schedule, Torres replied. They've noticed the subtle changes in Earth's energy emissions as we've relocated our population. But they're looking for the wrong signs with the wrong tools. She paused, her expression hardening. Captain Patel, your battle group will spearhead the first phase of the revelation. Are you prepared? Maya looked around her bridge, at the crew that had trained for years in absolute secrecy. Every person here represented humanity's true potential, not the carefully constrained version the Confederation thought they knew. We're ready, Admiral. The Prometheus and her battle group will show the Confederation exactly what humanity is capable of. Good. Torres's hologram straightened. The quantum array is charged and ready. When we reveal ourselves, we'll do so on our terms, all at once. The Confederation believes they've been watching a primitive species taking its first steps into space. Instead, they've been watching humanity prepare for this moment. Maya finished. A new signal flashed through the fleet's secure network, the final authorization from Earth Defense Command. Operation Starbreak was now active. Humanity would soon reveal its true face to the galaxy. Maya turned to her crew. All stations, begin power-up sequences. Maintain quantum shroud until final execution order. Weapons, bring all systems to standby. Navigation, plot final approach vectors. Through the viewport, she could see other ships of her battle group moving into their final positions. The Confederation had spent centuries ensuring humanity developed exactly as they wished. They had never considered that their restrictions would force humans to develop in ways they couldn't predict or detect. Message from Earth, Lieutenant Chan announced. Ambassador Williams is addressing the Confederation Council now. Chan smiled. He's apologizing for humanity's slow progress and requesting additional technical assistance. Maya allowed herself a small smile. How long until they realized that every restriction, every barrier, every carefully crafted limitation just taught us to think differently? Final coordinates locked, reported the navigation officer. Battle Group Prometheus is in attack position. Quantum shroud integrity at 100%. Maya took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history about to turn. Send word to Admiral Torres. The Prometheus is ready to reveal humanity's true power to the galaxy. In the silence of space, invisible to the most advanced alien sensors, humanity's fleet waited for the signal to shed its disguise. The Confederation's celebration of their supposed mastery over primitive species was about to become something very different, a revelation that would shake the galaxy to its foundations. High Counselor Vex Thor of the Confederation stood at the grand podium in the council chamber, his ceremonial robes gleaming under the artificial stars that dotted the ceiling. Around him, representatives from over 300 species attended the first contact anniversary celebration, all congratulating themselves on their benevolent guidance of primitive species. "And so," he announced, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common, "we celebrate another cycle of successful species development management. Our guidance ensures stable, controlled advancement off." A junior aide rushed into the chamber, breaking centuries of protocol. "High Counselor, emergency." Before Vexthor could reprimand the aide, every holographic display in the chamber activated simultaneously. The images showed the Sol system, humanity's home. But something was wrong, something impossible. In orbit around Earth, massive ships were appearing from nowhere. Not small vessels, but enormous warships that dwarfed anything in the Confederation Navy. More ships emerged from Saturn's rings, from the asteroid belt, from behind Mars, an entire fleet materializing from empty space. "Impossible," whispered Vexthor. "Their technology level. We've monitored every advancement. They can't have." The chamber's main display activated, showing the human face. Admiral Elena Torres looked at the assembled alien representatives with cold satisfaction. "Greetings, Confederation Council. For centuries, you've watched humanity, guided us, restricted us, manipulated us." Her voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. "Today, you learn what those restrictions actually created." On every screen, more human ships appeared. Their design was unlike anything in Confederation records, incorporating principles that Confederation science said were impossible. "Admiral," Vexthor managed to say, "these readings must be incorrect. Our latest assessment shows human technology is at least 3 centuries from achieving." "Your assessments," Torres interrupted, "were based on what we wanted you to see. Every restriction you placed on us forced us to innovate in ways you never imagined. Every barrier taught us to think differently." She smiled. "You didn't contain us. You inspired us." In the space around the Council station, quantum distortions rippled as more human ships dropped their cloaking fields. The station's sensors were registering energy readings that shouldn't have been possible. "Security," Vexthor called out. "Raise the station's shields." "I wouldn't," Torres advised. "Your shield generators are already under our control." In fact, she gestured, and every light in the Council chamber changed color. "Your entire station has been under our control for the past 6 hours." Panic began to spread through the chamber as alien representatives realized the implications. Humanity hadn't just broken free of their constraints. They had advanced far beyond what the Confederation had thought possible. On a secondary screen, Ambassador Williams, the same human who had been pleading for technical assistance just hours before, appeared. "For 60 years, I've stood in this chamber," he said quietly. "I'd watched you laugh at human achievements, dismiss our potential, treat us as children to be managed. Today, that ends." Vexthor stared as tactical displays showed more human ships appearing throughout Confederation space. They had somehow positioned their forces near every major Confederation world without being detected. "How?" he finally asked. "Our monitoring was perfect. Our restrictions were." "Your restrictions," Torres cut in, "became our greatest teachers. You gave us a cage built from laws of physics. We learned to break those laws. You told us quantum manipulation was impossible. We mastered it. You said we couldn't hide a ship's energy signature. We learned to hide entire fleets." Through the Council chamber's windows, Vexthor could see human vessels taking up position around the station. Their design was elegant, powerful, nothing like the primitive ships humans were supposed to be capable of building. "What are your demands?" he asked, knowing his next words would shape the future of the galaxy. "Demands?" Torres raised an eyebrow. "We're not here to make demands, High Counselor. We're here to make changes. Your system of species suppression ends today. Not just for humanity, but for all species you've been guiding." As if to emphasize her point, more displays activated, showing other alien fleets decloaking near their homeworlds. Ships built with human technology, crewed by species that the Confederation had also tried to contain. You see, Torres continued, while you were busy maintaining your perfect system of control, we were reaching out to others like us, species you thought were safely contained, races you dismissed as primitive. For 30 years, we've been sharing our breakthroughs, building alliances, preparing for this moment. Ambassador Williams stepped forward. The Confederation era of guided development is over. A new age begins today, one of true cooperation, of unrestricted scientific advancement, of genuine partnership between species. Vexthor looked around the chamber, seeing the shock on every alien face as they realized the true magnitude of what was happening. The Confederation's carefully maintained system of control wasn't just being challenged, it was being completely dismantled by a species they had thought safely contained. You've left us no choice, Torres concluded. Humanity and our allies are assuming control of all Confederation military and administrative facilities. Your choice now is simple: adapt to the new reality, or become part of history. As the council chamber erupted into chaos, Vexthor realized the ultimate irony. The Confederation's greatest achievement, their system of species control, had actually created something far more powerful, a humanity that had learned to hide its strength, unite with others, and wait for the perfect moment to reshape the galaxy. 1 month after Revelation Day, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the newly established Galactic Science Academy on Mars, watching as representatives from dozens of species filed into the Grand Lecture Hall. The facility had been hidden beneath the Martian surface for decades, waiting for this moment. Now it would serve as a symbol of unrestricted scientific cooperation. Through the chamber's transparent dome, she could see Earth ships patrolling alongside vessels from former Confederation worlds. The sight still amazed her, not just the technology on display, but the speed with which former enemies had become allies. Quite a change from last month, Admiral Torres said, joining her at the window. The Admiral had traded her military uniform for diplomatic attire, though she still carried herself with the same quiet authority. The Confederation never understood what they created, Sarah replied. They thought they were building a prison of scientific limitations. Instead, they created a crucible that forced us to think beyond conventional boundaries. Torres smiled. And we weren't the only ones. On the main stage, representatives from various species were setting up displays showing technologies that the Confederation had deemed impossible. Each breakthrough represented years of secret research, hidden innovations that had flourished in the shadow of suppression. The Arcturians have already adapted our quantum manipulation principles to their crystalline computing systems, Sarah noted. The Zesville are combining their biotechnology with our physics breakthroughs. Every species the Confederation tried to contain was actually developing in ways they couldn't detect. Because they never looked for what they thought was impossible, Torres added. Their arrogance became their blindness. The chamber filled with excited discussion as more delegates arrived. Former Confederation scientists mingled with researchers from primitive species, all sharing discoveries that had been hidden for centuries. The air buzzed with possibility. Ambassador Williams entered, accompanied by representatives from the newly formed Galactic Alliance, the organization that had replaced the Confederation. Many former Confederation worlds had joined willingly, eager to participate in this new era of unrestricted development. The transition teams report 90% completion, he announced, joining Sarah and Torres. Most Confederation worlds have accepted the new reality. Those that resisted, he shrugged. It's hard to maintain a system of control when your technology is suddenly obsolete. Sarah watched as a young Confederation scientist engaged in animated discussion with a researcher from one of the formerly primitive species. They're adapting quickly. They have to, Torres replied. The galaxy is changing faster than anyone expected. Every day, more hidden technologies emerge. Species that the Confederation dismissed as barbaric are revealing advances that challenge our understanding of science itself. The main doors opened again, admitting a group that made Sarah catch her breath. Former High Counselor Vex Thor entered, accompanied by other former Confederation leaders. They had accepted positions as advisors to the Galactic Alliance, their experience valuable even as their former power structure crumbled. The irony, Williams mused, is that they're finally achieving their stated goal, helping species advance and develop. They just had to lose their power first. A hush fell over the chamber as Sarah stepped up to the podium. She looked out at the assembled beings, former oppressors and former oppressed, all now equals in the pursuit of knowledge. "Welcome to the first gathering of the Galactic Science Academy," she began. "For centuries, artificial barriers divided us. Scientific knowledge was controlled, restricted, used as a tool of suppression." She paused, making eye contact with various delegates. "Today we begin a new chapter. No more restrictions, no more artificial limitations. Together, we will explore the true boundaries of science." The chamber erupted in applause, not just from the formerly suppressed species, but from many former Confederation scientists as well. They too had chafed under the restrictions, forced to maintain a system that stifled true innovation. As Sarah continued her speech, a message flashed across her neural link. The quantum detection grid had found another cache of hidden technology, this time in a system that the Confederation had classified as pre-industrial. More proof that suppression had only driven innovation underground. "The greatest lesson," she concluded, "is one the Confederation never understood. You cannot contain the drive to explore, to discover, to advance. You can only channel it. They tried to cage us, all of us. Instead, they forced us to break every cage they built." Later, as the formal proceedings gave way to excited discussion and collaboration, Sarah found herself standing with Torres and Williams on the Academy's observation deck. Below them, the Martian surface gleamed with the lights of newly unveiled cities. Above, ships from dozens of species moved in complex patterns, their technologies no longer hidden. "Think they'll ever try to suppress us again?" Williams wondered. Torres shook her head. "They couldn't suppress us when they thought they had us contained. Now," she gestured at the combined fleet maneuvering overhead, "now they know better." Sarah watched as a group of scientists from 6 different species huddled around a holographic display, all contributing to a new theory of quantum mechanics that would have been forbidden just months ago. "No," she said quietly. "They won't try again. They finally understand what we learned long ago." "What's that?" Williams asked. "That the strongest force in the universe isn't physics or technology," she replied. "It's the determination to break free of anyone who tries to hold you back." As the sun set on Mars, casting long shadows across the Academy's grounds, the galaxy continued its transformation. The age of suppression was over. The age of unlimited potential had begun. And humanity, along with all the other species who had learned to hide their strength, would ensure it never ended.